Hello, I am Jill Norris. I'm a hair test mineral analysis practitioner and registered nurse. I just wanted to make a quick video about the basics of hair analysis and heavy metals. I have a lot of tests that I've done even just in the last week, and for the most part, the tests I've gotten this week have a lot of very blatantly elevated heavy metals, so I had to do a little digging and find the most common tests that I normally get where heavy metals show very low or undetectable often on a first test. And it's usually related to the electrolytes and how the electrolytes are not well balanced, or when they're really low, the voltage across our cells is weak and we're not really in a good position to detoxify. So if you have any kind of a physiology background or biology, you know how the cells function, you would know that we have sodium and potassium pumps on all of our cells. And the gradient of these two minerals drives these pumps, and they allow all the nutrients to go into a cell, and they allow for heavy metals and toxins to come out of a cell. They're the voltage across our cells. So it's really important that we keep our electrolytes in tissue at good levels, and then that way, if we ever end up in an acute situation where we have a health crisis, then our blood levels will stay much, much better. I worked as a registered nurse in the hospital for 10 years, and I know any kind of floor, most of the floors that I ever worked on were cardiac floors where there was cardiac monitoring, so higher level of care of patients. Whereas when a patient has a cardiac monitor on, we're regularly checking electrolyte levels because it's extremely important to keep the electrolyte levels balanced and good. They keep our vital signs good. And when we have good tissue storage, we tend to have good blood levels. Potassium is a big one that's consistently and constantly replaced in the hospital. We do also replace sodium and magnesium. We look at calcium as well. But for the most part, potassium is something that any nurse knows you're replacing that all day long, either IV or through a pill. And then we also give sodium chloride, which is fluids in the hospital regularly as well. And usually the people in the hospital that we're replacing these on all day long are the ones that don't, if we were to look at a hair tissue mineral analysis, that the levels in tissue would be low. So here's an example here. If you look here, this is the toxic elements. These are the heavy metals. And if you see these little double lines here, those show, sorry, it's hard to point backwards. I'm not used to doing this, and I rarely film. These double little lines, these mean undetectable. This person does not have really low levels of heavy metals. I can guarantee you that. But what they do have is really low Na and K. Na is sodium. K is potassium. This reference range here, I do not follow that reference range. This range is based on the current population, and most people nowadays are not very healthy unless you are a huge advocate for yourself. You can usually find markers of metabolic disease and things like that in most people. Most people are insulin resistant. We have a lot higher numbers of dementia, Alzheimer's, which is type 3 diabetes. We have all kinds of autoimmune diseases now. So going back to the levels, sorry, it's hard to point backwards again, of sodium, potassium. So Na, sodium, it's a 4. It's not the clearest. I want that about 20. Potassium, it's a 1. I want that about 10. Those are the optimal numbers, and that's a good ratio between the two minerals. Even if we are able to raise these electrolytes up a little bit, and these are the most two important electrolytes that are on the test, even just raising them up a little bit and then giving the heavy metals a little tug with our minerals. I work for Iodine Minerals in San Diego, California. We can gently pull at these heavy metals and support detoxification by giving electrolytes and helping to balance the ratio of electrolytes. So there's ratios on the back here. These ratios tell me metabolically a lot about a person. And the closer we can get to that middle acceptable line in the middle here, the better. So we've got a sodium potassium ratio, which it's a little elevated. And then we have a sodium magnesium ratio, Na to Mg. Sorry, it's not the clearest. that is very low. So in addition to having two electrolytes low, sodium, potassium, and then both of those ratios out of balance, puts this person in a position where they don't detoxify heavy metals very well. So I work to correct the situation of electrolytes and pull at the metals. And within, I usually recommend retesting within 4 to 6 months. Beautifully, we see these heavy metals move up and out. And I have tests right now that I can actually show you where that happens. Anyway, the biggest thing, supporting detoxification and pulling on the metals. I have clients that I worked with who will go and do IV chelation for heavy metals. And if you're using anything other than alpha lipoic acid or glutathione, which that's the newer way to detox heavy metals through IV, if you're using anything like EDTA, which I actually like EDTA orally, I think it works well. I know there's some people that don't think that EDTA orally is very good, but I've seen it work really, really well in lowering or getting heavy metals out of the tissues. So IV chelation using EDTA, DMSA, it's not the best. I have people that I've worked with who have a lot of problems since then. Anyway, using minerals to chelate metals is what I'm doing basically, and it allows the body to detoxify when it's ready. We're not forcing it to do something that it's not ready to do. So I like to talk to my clients a lot about diet. If we're doing a hair analysis, most clients that come to me have kind of exhausted the system. They've exhausted other avenues of trying to find an answer of things that are underlying with their health. Whereas when they come to me, I'm trying to help them find the missing piece to the puzzle. And sometimes we really find things that we never would have found in any other way. I'm thinking of somebody specifically where I haven't pulled their tests out already. I have several examples in my mind. I just would have to search for their tests. Sometimes we find things where you would never have found this marker in blood. You would have never known, like this person's in particular. Look at this level. This is a recent test I did, C915-2025. Look at their cadmium. That's that CD in this pink area. And then PB is lead. We've got a pretty good arsenic level here. The reference range that's in white, this is, just because you're in the reference range doesn't mean that it's great. I'm looking at numbers and not bars. I have numbers in my mind where I eventually want to get people to when it comes to their heavy metals. But just because I'm not seeing a metal first off doesn't mean that it's there. We've got to give it some pulling, like I said. So this person here, I've already created a menu for this person. I've actually recommended that he start and do our full heavy metal cleansing protocol. It's interesting too, because I have a test on his, I think she's his partner, and they share a home. And I noticed today that it says they both have the same career, and this career usually often entails metalworking. So more than likely, this is from their occupation. The female has lower numbers than his, but her metals correspond, and her overall pattern is almost exactly like his. And it's interesting because just because her metals show lower than his doesn't mean that she doesn't have more underlying metals. It means that what we're actually seeing here in the way of heavy metals is what this person's actually mobilizing. So it's actually a really good thing when I see an elevated heavy metal, because that means that their body is actually mobilizing it to the point that I can see it. I have clients that will do a test and we're not seeing any heavy metals initially, and 4 to 6 months from the time they begin supplementation with the minerals that I recommend for them, sometimes with the EDTA within the IDON heavy metal cleansing protocol, which includes a few other things like dandelion milk thistle. So that's kidney, liver support within, and sometimes just even with the minerals themselves. I can see huge spikes within 4 to 6 months of the metals because the body's allowing them to come out. And then all of a sudden I'm able to see them on paper, and then we know what we're looking at. and I'll make adjustments to the mineral menu accordingly. A lot of times at that point, if I see big spikes in metals, I'll add a little bit of iodine. I do add iodine quite frequently now that I have a new formula called Adrenal Support. My Adrenal Support formula is a formula that I actually was able to blend and create myself, which was several different minerals that I was giving all of my clients on a day-to-day basis. Now we were able to get the minerals all in one bottle, which includes magnesium, manganese, zinc, a little bit of silica, and selenium. And this is literally my adrenal formula. The silica, selenium, and zinc all help to pull heavy metals and carry them out of the body. I give 99% of my clients, I recommend a product we have called Joint Support. Joint Support is a blend of silica and sulfur. And the sulfur is anti-inflammatory. It helps the liver to detoxify. Silica helps basically all the minerals to get into the cells a lot better, and it helps to release the heavy metals. And silica is a direct antagonist to specific metals like aluminum, like silica is my chelator. Most people need silica. The lab I use, which is Trace Elements, doesn't test for silica directly, but I don't need to see silica directly to know that somebody needs it. I know that everybody needs silica. It's something we are not getting through our diet, and for the most part, I often see people with really elevated calcium levels. So silica helps with calcium management, and where calcium is being managed more appropriately, helps the pH balance in the body just overall be much more balanced. There's so much to this stuff, you guys. I absolutely love this stuff, and I love teaching this stuff. What else can I say? Okay, so let's look at this again. Look at this person's sodium, potassium, NAK, 166, 175. Look at that. These are crazy high. What's going on there? What is going on there? You know what's going on there? This person has crazy high heavy metals, which creates stress in the body, and the adrenal glands respond. So the adrenal glands regulate our sodium in the body. They are in charge of our fluid balance by way of hormone communication with the kidneys. So they basically will tell our kidneys to either hold on to sodium or let it go. And when we let go of sodium, we lose potassium and other electrolytes too. So when I'm looking at a really elevated sodium level like this, I'm not just looking at sodium. I'm not thinking, oh, this person must eat a lot of salt in their diet. I don't think that at all. This person's adrenal glands are very stressed out. So what I do, I actually give this person sodium and potassium, the two minerals that they look really elevated in, and it helps bring these into range because we're supporting the adrenal glands. So these minerals are required for the synthesis, the production and the secretion of the hormones to work appropriately. So a lot of times I get people who, and I have this myself too, and I've been through some major mold illness. I've been through my own health challenges, and that's how I ended up in naturopathic medicine and out of Western medicine, because personally I was not finding help within the Western medicine system. Natural medicine has saved me a few times over. I could talk more about that, but I won't. So sodium and potassium, these are our stress hormones. Potassium represents cortisol. I mean, potassium represents our corticotropic steroid hormones. Cortisol is the one that we know the best. So when we're looking at elevated sodium, potassium, we're looking at stress. So when I give these minerals, it helps bring these into range, and it's going to continue to support this person who's already mobilizing this huge amount of cadmium. That's a huge amount of cadmium. This cadmium is the most carcinogenic heavy metal that there is. I have done a test actually on my brother. My brother was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, which is a bone cancer that young men get. And Harvard actually linked it to fluoride exposure. When we were little, we used to eat little fluoride pills. We used to eat toothpaste. Yeah, we were kind of strange. Anyway, my brother ended up with Ewing sarcoma. But what was interesting, when I finally did his hair test, which was about a year ago. His cadmium looked like this too, and he's had cancer 3 times. Unfortunately, he's not really following a protocol to get rid of it. But in my view, in my opinion, when we catch something like this and this person doesn't have major issues yet, like this is absolutely prevention at its best. This is what I love about hair analysis. There's things that we can identify on these tests, and I can see B12 deficiency, which B12 is really important as well to help detoxify heavy metals, support the nervous system. I mean, when we're looking at hair analysis, we're looking at the neuroendocrine system. I mean, I can see markers of stress, inflammation. I can see overall metabolism. I can see inflammation. I can't see particulars necessarily of hormone balance, but I mean, zinc and copper are representative of hormones. Copper represents estrogen. Zinc represents testosterone, progesterone. So the balance between these 2 minerals is really important. And then the ratio of these 2 minerals also can indicate inflammation and imbalances with, inflammation can equal pH balance and imbalance in the body. So there's a lot of ways of seeing this. I mean, I could go on and on. What else is important? So I guess the biggest thing is being able to identify things in hair testing that we're not going to find any other way. When I look at somebody's health assessment, I have everybody fill out a health assessment. I have them tell me what medications they're on as well as any supplements that they're taking. And this is another really important point. So oftentimes when there's certain specific minerals that I know almost for a fact that if somebody's taking, I hate to say it, guys, a lot of people are taking magnesium glycinate and being told this is the best magnesium there is, but I can say I have receipts on minerals and I can see how well they're absorbing and being metabolized. And when I see magnesium, zinc, selenium, when I see these really, really elevated, I know for almost a fact, even if that person doesn't tell me that they're taking those minerals, that they're probably taking those minerals in a form of a capsule. And what it shows me is that this person's not actually utilizing this mineral appropriately, because if somebody's utilizing a mineral appropriately, the mineral is going to be within range. It's not going to be low, it's not going to be high, it's going to be in range. So when we look at specific minerals, not every single one on a hair test, certain ones mean losses. So if you're taking minerals that are not absorbing, you're basically just throwing your money down the drain. With the iodine minerals, I can switch you to an iodine mineral, an ionic form that doesn't need to be broken down. The gut doesn't have to be super healthy to use it and metabolize it. It's going to start to get into the cells before it even hits your gut. Most people have an imbalanced gut microbiome. And I honestly, you guys, I don't think that's on accident. Our whole food system, I do believe it, maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, I do believe that it's not there to make us well. I think that there might be ties within the food system and the pharmaceutical industry, and they're looking to make lifelong customers. Well, I work on the other side. I work on the side of trying to keep people healthy. It's a lot easier to keep someone healthy when they're healthy and to find markers ahead of time before it presents somebody with symptoms. So if we can catch something on a hair test and address it right away, like I do a lot of tests on kids and babies, and I'll see markers in their tests where we're catching things when they're young and we're preventing things, and I guarantee you we are. Whereas when I'm working with a type 2 diabetic, someone who's already got Hashimoto's, we're up against autoimmune, metabolic imbalances, and we're trying to correct this stuff. Yes, I have had people get off thyroid medications with minerals, absolutely. I'm not promising that I will do that. Most people do stay on their medicine, and I don't recommend that anybody jump off their meds. But we can really, our body is made of 3 things. We are made out of minerals. That's why we can do a hair tissue mineral analysis and we can't do a hair tissue vitamin analysis, because we're not made out of vitamins. But when we have our minerals in balance and our heavy metals at safe levels, our body will, and our gut our gut can more adequately produce the vitamins that it needs. We don't make all of our own vitamins, but our gut and our body absolutely do make vitamins. Like vitamin B12 is activated in the gut by something called intrinsic factors. So when I see, I'll show you an example, this person's not bad with their B12 levels. So if you look here, cobalt 0.002, that's an okay number. But I do see people with undetectable levels of cobalt, and so not often, but sometimes I see people, and I was one of these people included when I came back to IDON, where my cobalt was off the charts. Anyway, so there's markers in blood too. Sometimes I see stuff in the hair test where I will ask for, I say, if you happen to have some blood, we could look at that too. Maybe this might indicate, maybe you need some B12. I know for me, with the level of severity of my B12 deficiency when I came back to IDON, because I had worked here in the past, that I actually did injections of B12 for a while. And then I started on, I've used a few really absorbable or bioavailable forms of the B12 that I do recommend that are able to correct the cobalt or B12 levels really well. So usually if I'm seeing somebody with B12 issues, it's just one way of seeing that this person's gut's not very balanced. But I will say almost every single American in the United States, if you don't have some symptoms of something now, you're going to have symptoms of something later. And most people have overgrowth of Candida albicans in the gut, whereas you might seem fine now, but it might present as cancer in a couple of years. This is educational purposes only. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind on stuff, but my belief, 100% to the gut, to the core, and I work 100% on ethics. I wouldn't say things that I truly didn't believe, but these are my beliefs, is that our gut and our gut health is related to the gut of our whole body. If we have mineral imbalances, we are not going to have the energy or the ability to produce hormones or endocrine hormones. We have a loop system of 7 endocrine glands in our, I gotta get this.